worry about. So I would actually recommend not using tubeless for like any flyaway race, just because it's a hassle.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Your fan is over here.
Oh. Hi. Nice to meet you. 45 plus km. So it's like, it's ridiculous, basically.
Sorry, I think there's some dragon dance.
I know, festivities,
Lion dance
right?
happening downstairs.
It's like Deepavali.
How did you turn pro?
Not pro. Very far from pro.
How did you get into like
or like, you know, the smarts in the race. The bike is like such a small portion. Maybe if you're at World Tour level, that will matter. But come on, you're just 4.3 lah. You have so much more room to improve yourself than like the bike. And at one point, I just felt like that doesn't make sense. I shouldn't have to change for the bike. The bike should, I should be able to choose what bike that fits me. So in the end, I just went back to S-Works because I knew S-Works would fit the bill.
Is it because of marketing? Or genuinely their products are good, like they've done the research?
There's definitely some marketing into it, not gonna lie. But after trying several bikes, so I've owned Cervelos before, I've had Trek, I've had this, what else have I, BMC I've had. And of all these bikes, I feel like S-Works hits the right spot for me. Like if you start out with S-Works or Specialized, I think you're probably quite spoiled for experience because I think they make quite well-rounded bikes. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't try because every person's experience on a bike will be different because maybe you are a different weight, you output different power, you ride maybe in the saddle more or maybe out of the saddle more. So I think coming here to Singapore, I have like newfound respect for Singaporean cyclists because it's so hard to train here. Just the geography is so hard. There's no climbs basically. You have so many traffic lights. You only have a small patch of road here and there that you can properly train. So if any Singapore cyclist is like, oh, I have 4 watts or like 5 watts, I'd be like, good job, man. Like, because some sports teams they have like, oh, we look very cool and we have like the same kit. It looks good on the IG and that's what they want to do, but they don't want to race. That's cool. But we're a team where we want to race. We want to look good, but also want to race. So we have a lot of inquiries too, like, oh, I want to join your team. Oh, do you want to race? No. Oh, sorry. Cannot lah. Like that's like the basic requirement. You can't even do that. So unfortunately, we have open rides. You can come join, but racing is part of the DNA of the team. Like a simple tactic is basically, let's say, 2 of your guys are break away and 1 guy from another team bridges over. So what do you do next? Well, of course you attack the heck out of him. Don't just let him sit in your draft, right? Because you outnumber. So if 1 guy attacks, he can't follow, well then that guy wins, right? He can break away. If he follows, then the other guy just follows and basically you burn his energy out until one of you from your team wins. So these kind of tactics, it sounds simple, but in the moment, when the heat is on, adrenaline is going, and you're tired, you don't have time to think. It has to be like instinct. Let's say 140 km, right? Tour of Bintan. If you attack on the goal, right at the goal, what? No way lah. The race hasn't even started yet. So you have to pick your moment. So usually, the hillier the race, the easier it is to pick your moments. The reason why I changed was because the rails broke on the carbon rail, and apparently it's like a common issue.
How did it break for you? Were you riding and it just
I was just riding and suddenly like, it just like went down.
Shit.
And I was like, oh, did it like slip? I thought it was just this thing, the clamp that slipped. And you know how some people make silly mistakes, like they turn right instead of left. Because they rely too much on like the race marshals, but sometimes they make mistakes too, that they're human. A lot of people ask me like, oh, what bike should I get as my first bike? I tell them like, just get any old bike lah, because you'll definitely buy the wrong size. You'll definitely not know what you're doing. Just buy whatever, play around, buy cheap, buy multiple times, okay, no problem. Once you figure it out, then you can spend the money. I think that makes more sense. But I mean, money is yours, you do whatever you want, right? I say that to everyone, but it's always like, do as I say, not as I do. I always buy the expensive stuff and be like, yeah, wrong thing, damn it, you know. But you know, seriously, like that's the I guess amalgamation of all the mistakes that I've made.
Yeah.
You buy cheap at first, figure it out, and then you can spend the big monies on.
Okay, can you count down to 10? Let me just hear the volume. It's okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, ready.
You ready?
Yep, all good.
Daryl, thanks for coming, man. Upper Boon King, welcome to Singapore.
Thanks, man. I'm really happy and it's my honor to be able to be on your show.
Yeah, you are here. Tell us, why are you in Singapore? So, to those who don't know who Daryl is, he's a very famous YouTuber, up and coming YouTuber.
Hello，大家好，又係我 Daryl 啊。Yo，大家好，又係我 Daryl 啊。Hello，大家好，又係我 Daryl 啊。大家好，又係我 Daryl 啊。
No, not as famous as this guy, you know. But I'm here basically on like a extended trip. So I did a bike packing adventure with a friend in Vietnam for a week or so, and then I came here for Bintan, Tour of Bintan, that race. And then afterwards, now I'm just like here for an extra week to meet this guy and chill with everyone, you know. So yeah, had a lot of fun in Singapore.
Yeah, thanks for coming again. And you are leaving tomorrow, so we had to shoot today. I told him yesterday I had a shoot, it was raining, and I was like, when are you going home? If it rains, how? And he's like, don't care if it rains, we just shoot under the shelter.
No, I knew it was gonna be good weather because I have like I'm a tourist, you know, so I have the tourist luck. So
tourist luck.
Thank God, no rain.
Wow. Okay, so Daryl, tell us about let's start with your YouTube journey, right? So I came across your videos. I was like, wow, this guy is really fast. So Daryl's from Hong Kong. He does YouTube in Hong Kong. So how's it like? I mean, how do you all start for you?
Well, it started actually one time where I was training and then I got injured. So the doctor said, oh, I have to be off the bike for 1 month. And back then I was still like, oh, but I have the itch. I want to still be with my friends and, you know, see what they're doing. So my wife and I, we would, you know, drive right next to them. And then my wife said, oh, why don't you just like, you know, take out your phone, film them, put some videos on YouTube. I'm sure someone would like to watch. And I said, okay, sure. So that's how it all started. Whipped out my phone and the rest is kind of history.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing it?
Just over a year, maybe 1.5. I don't really remember exactly, but it started off really slow because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Actually, I had my first idea was to do something what you had in mind, and then
it's okay, you can still do it.
And then somehow that like got buried, and then you came up, and I was like, oh man, he's doing exactly what I want to do and doing it better than me. So okay lah, I let him.
You can do it. Do it in Hong Kong.
It's okay.
I'll look forward to seeing Hong Kong riders. I know you did a few interviews with some guy. I remember you interviewed someone who had a F12, was it?
Yes. So actually he's my friend and teammate. So Ocean, he actually came to Singapore for a few days, did the whole race as well. Really cool guy, and he actually changes bikes like all the time. So he's like a great target for me to be like, hey, let's do something. And it kind of helps with us promoting our team to get people to know us. So that's why we did him. But actually we did other bikes as well. So like the Athos was from a friend from RCC. He was very generous enough to lend his bike for us to try, and so we did a whole shot on that as well. So hopefully in the future we'll have some more chances to do features on our reviews on bikes, but maybe in like a different style format.
Yeah. I hope one day I go to Hong Kong, you can interview me instead.
Oh yeah, dude, you have to come to Hong Kong, and you have to let me know, show you around.
Okay, so then let's talk about you and cycling. So you are a pro, man. So you came in like what, podium at Bintan?
I podiumed for the individual time trial in my age group category. And I didn't expect it. I was really lucky, I think. But unfortunately, afterwards, I think I had like a really bad stomach flu. So the night after the ITT, I started to just basically have like non-stop. I was in the toilet, couldn't sleep at all. And then the next day, I said, okay, I try to maybe finish the race because the reason why I signed up for Tour de Bintan was so that I could qualify, hopefully, for the finals. I don't remember where it is next year, but it's like a UCI race for amateurs. And if you are the top 20% of your age group, then you get to go to the finals. And if you win like the amateur version of like the world champion rainbow jersey, right? So I don't think I'll win it, but I want to be able to be in the race. So I came here for the ITT and also the road race to do that. So I was like, oh man, today is like, second day is the qualifier race. The third day is not. It's more like Tour Bintan GC standings. So I said, okay, maybe at least finish and see where I stand so that next year I can come back again. At least I know where I am. But I couldn't. Like, the stomach ache was so bad. And I took a picture actually on the broom wagon, and I looked so like green. I was like, my wife was like, do you have a filter on? And why is it so green? I'm like, that's just my face.
Do you still have all those photos?
Do I what?
Do you have all those photos?
I do, yeah.
Okay,
I'll send it to you. Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you had to so-called retire from the race.
Well, oh well. It's I think I learned a lot from the experience as well. Like, I try not to dwell on the fact that I didn't finish, but instead, oh, next time, how can I prepare better so that I avoid like any kind of potential food poisoning or stomach flu situations. So I learned my lesson basically.
How's the race like in Bintan?
Oh, I think it's very fun. So I've done quite a few races locally in Hong Kong and also abroad in different countries. And I'd say the style is very Southeast Asian. So you have like a lot of dancing and festivities and all that. And then the people on the sidewalk just cheering you on, little kids, adults even. That's like something where I think maybe in other countries I haven't really experienced. Okay, I haven't really done much Europe racing, but in North America, there's some. Japan, some. Maybe more in Taiwan, but definitely Southeast Asia, I feel like the atmosphere is like, the roadside atmosphere is the best for sure.
Wow. Yeah. And is this your first race in Asia, or have you done races here?
I've done some, so Southeast Asia, I think this is the first, but I've done some other races in Asia. I did the Niseko Classic, so that's in Japan. There's a story for that too, if you're willing to listen.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so back in the days when I first started, and I kind of had like the whole Grand Fondo itch, I didn't know what Grand Fondo really is. In my opinion, it was all just like, oh, it's a big party, cycling. It's not really a race. You can race it if you want, but mostly it's just a big party. And so I got the itch for Grand Fondos, and I wanted to do more, but I wanted to go to Japan. So I said, okay, let's see like what Grand Fondo there is. And I think back then, before the UCI renamed this whole like series, it was just called like the Niseko Grand Fondo or something. So I was like, okay, Niseko Grand Fondo sounds like fun. Signed up for it. Didn't think much to it. I showed up at the race. I read the booklet that they gave you, and it says 140 kilometers, 2,400 meters of climbing. You have to finish within 5 hours.
Oh shit!
I was like, 5 hours? Are you kidding me? No, that can't be true. So I read more, but it's all in Japanese, right? So I'm trying to like Google translate everything. Go like, oh, so what time does this mean? Oh. I did all the math and I was like, oh no, really, like they're serious, 5 hours. So I was like, okay, I try. I got to the last 5 km, the last gate, and then this like old uncle comes out and he's like, no, you cannot. I'm like, dude, it's 5 km, like just let me finish. And Japanese people are very like, they love the rules, right? So he was very adamant, he was trying to block me or anything. So I was like, okay, fine lah. So I got on the bus. I was actually the first person on the broom wagon for that gate. But luckily, there's other people joining me, so I didn't feel so bad.
Wow.
But that's when I realized, like, oh, okay, so this is actually a race, and this is what a race actually feels like. So then I kind of started to got the itch, and I was like, I have to go back to Niseko to avenge myself, you know? Yeah. So that's kind of how all the racing and everything started.
So you went back again?
I went back again, yeah.
You managed to finish it?
2 years later, I managed to finish it. I did it in 4 hours.
So you prepared yourself?
I trained like non-stop, you know, like a demon.
Wow. So finally you got the achievement to finish it.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then, but I mean, 4 hours, it's fast for me, I think. But the winning time is like, what, 3.5 hours?
That's crazy.
Yeah, so, and 4 hours doesn't qualify you for anything.
Right.
You just finish. So that's when I start to think, okay, now I can finish the race. What's the next step? How about I qualify? And so, yeah, it's like an endless pit. You just keep pushing yourself, like, what's next, what's next, what's next?
Which is the toughest race you've joined or raced?
Tour de Okinawa, I think. So Tour de Okinawa, it's special because it's 200 kilometers. and it basically goes around the entire Okinawa island. In itself, it's not that hard. The course profile, it's like mostly flat with 2 climbs. What's difficult is the crosswind and the headwind, because Okinawa is like it's just an island in the middle of the sea, right? So the wind is like insane. And if you're not in a pack, dude, you don't want to cycle there, basically. So that was like the toughest, because all the big name teams, it's like the equivalent of Japanese Anza, Matador, you know, Allied World Cycling, Mavericks, all these guys, but the equivalent in Japan showed up in that race.
Yeah.
And those are like heavy hitters, you know. So they, even on the beginning, first 80 km is all flat. They were like controlling the race at the front, dictating the pace. If you started behind, there's no way you can go to the front, because they're pulling like 45 plus km. So it's like, it's ridiculous, basically.
Sorry, I think there's some dragon dance.
I know, festivities,
Lion dance
right?
happening downstairs.
It's like Deepavali.
Is it loud?
See if you can hear
Maybe
them.
they are welcoming you here to Singapore.
I know, I
my
told
show.
you, it's the tourist luck, right?
Maybe we need to take a break for a while, wait for that to die down.
yeah,
This is
sure,
quite
sure,
long.
sure. 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Dude, why does it sound like it's coming back? Okay, I think it's okay.
Yeah.
I think we're rolling. Sorry guys, there's some lion dance, I think, welcoming Daryl onto Singapore, into Singapore. So where were we? We were talking about your races.
Yep.
I think we last spoke about Okinawa, was it?
Okinawa, yeah,
Okay.
that's right, yeah. So super windy race. I do recommend if anyone wants to try. It's a super beautiful island. You'll find a lot of things to do. It's full of beaches, so you can stay at a beach resort, and then once you finish the race, go there, relax. But yeah, it's very windy.
Okay. I think you guys might be able to hear some background noise, but let's just proceed.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it'll be okay.
Yeah, how did you get into cycling? Let's go back all the way back. How did you start cycling, and how did you turn pro?
Not pro,
How
very
did
far
you-
from pro.
yeah, how did
Very
you
far from
get
pro.
into like a race team and stuff like that? How did it all start?
Well, it started, the reason why I started cycling was because back then I was into go-karts and racing go-karts. So I had like kind of that need for speed, kind of adrenaline. But you know, karting in Hong Kong or China is very, very expensive, because there's no go-kart tracks in Hong Kong like you do in Singapore. So you have to go all the way to China, and then you have to pay so much money just to get the kart running and practice, not even race. So that got expensive. And then my friends were like, well, why don't you try like cycling to build up your fitness for a go-kart, but also do some races, because the feeling for adrenaline is about the same. So I started to train first. I started to lose weight. That got me motivated. And I got a coach. For the longest time, he was like, you should do races, because you have a good shot for the Hong Kong style racing, which is all flats and criteriums. But I was kind of scared, you know, I didn't want to crash and all that. So I held off for a long time. It wasn't until like doing all the Grand Fondos that my friends brought me to. My cousin actually is into cycling too, so she brought me into that, and then started to do like Grand Fondo races. And then there's not a lot of choices to race in Hong Kong, and you can't afford to always be traveling for racing. So I started to sign up for the Hong Kong local races. That's when I realized that, oh, okay, it's a completely different style of racing. So just doing all these different things made me realize or learn more about cycling, and that got me interested. So eventually, slowly and slowly, it just got more and more hardcore. Try to push limits, reach new heights, hit new FTP numbers, or maybe hit like a new weight number. Yeah, so I definitely wouldn't say I'm pro. In Hong Kong, my FTP weight per kg is not that high.
Oh.
It's 4.3.
It's quite okay.
It's okay. It's respectable. I can finish races and maybe be at the you know, pointy end of things. But yeah, like in Hong Kong, I think 5 is quite common nowadays, because people are so light. It's like some kid out there would be like 50 kg. It's only 250 watts to be 5 kg. You know, it's for a guy, it's really not that hard.
Yeah.
Just practice a little, and you get there.
Right.
So yeah, definitely not pro.
So when was this when you started getting into cycling? How many years ago? How long have you been cycling?
I've been cycling for like more than 10 years, yeah, but always been road bike.
Okay.
Only lately have I started, kind of got bored of road biking because it's, I guess Singapore folks or anyone in around the world probably gets the same feeling. You're just trapped in that same city, same roads all the time, so you want to find something different. So lately I've been doing some mountain biking, so super newbie, but yeah, cycling has been for like 10 years. But I haven't like seriously trained for the whole 10 years. It wasn't maybe until like the 4th or 5th year that I started to be like, okay, need to like start seriously training.
Yeah. So what bikes have you owned?
What bikes?
If you could remember 10 years ago?
Wow, I actually made like a whole YouTube video on that.
Okay, I'll insert it in here.
You can insert it there.
Hello， 大家好，又係我 Daryl 啊！嗱，近排咧其實都幾多人咧喺度問我，喂，你踩車嘅呢9至10年之間啦，究竟踩過擁有過啲乜嘢嘅單車咧 ？OK， 首先第一部單車就係呢一架喺2012年買嘅，就係 BMC 嘅 Team Machine SLR02啦。哇，嗰陣係沙根嘅特別版顏色啦嘅 SL6咯喎。然後咧就因為個 Venge Fires 咧，我就嫌佢個臂力啦又比較差啦。咁所以咧，當有出咗架新嘅 Venge 嗰陣咧，我就基本上係即刻換咗車啦。
I calculated the average is like basically I swap bikes every single year. That's
Is there
the
a reason
average.
why? You just want to try different things?
Just try. I think now I'm to the point where it's like I know very, very well that the bike doesn't really matter. It's all about like the legs and your capabilities and your like, you know, the smarts on in the race. The bike is like such a small portion. Maybe if you're at World Tour level, that will matter, but come on, you're just 4.3 lah. You have so much more room to improve yourself than like the bike. So these few years, I've started to kind of like calm it down. Actually, no, that's not even true. I just swapped this year, but I think that was because I had a Trek before and I wanted to try because everyone was like, you always ride S-Works, such a S-Works fanboy lah. And I was like, okay, I'll show you guys. I'm not S-Works fanboy. So I bought a Trek to try it out. And then
which one was it?
It was the Emonda SLR. It's a good bike. It's very comfortable. It's very stable. And I'm pretty sure if you put on thicker tires, you can go gravel. It's probably okay. But it didn't really like fit my riding style because I like to, I'm a pretty heavy guy for my height, 70 kilos right now. So it's pretty heavy and more of a sprinter type of rider. And also I like to, when I'm climbing, I like to get out of the saddle a lot. So for me, the Emonda, it just didn't really fit my style. I had to adapt my style to fit the bike. And at one point I just felt like, that doesn't make sense. I shouldn't have to change for the bike. The bike should, I should be able to choose what bike that fits me. So in the end, I just went back to S-Works because I knew S-Works would fit the bill. Yeah.
Have you owned different S-Works before?
Yeah, I had, not that many though. I had the SL6, the Venge, the Shift TT, I have, and this one. I haven't tried like SL5, SL4, all those, no.
Okay.
But yeah, the more recent crop of bikes I've had. My mountain bike is also a S-Works Epic.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm a S-Works fanboy.
Is it because of marketing? Or genuinely their products are good, like they've done the research?
There's definitely some marketing into it, not gonna lie. But after trying several bikes, so I've owned Cervelos before, I've had Trek, I've had this, what else have I, BMC I've had. And of all these bikes, I feel like S-Works hits the right spot for me for weight. So like some bikes will be like, oh, it rides well, but it's too heavy. So that's the BMC. I feel like the characteristics are very similar. Let's say is it the Team Machine? Very similar to this, but it's like at least 1 kg heavier. So why would you pick that? From me, from my standpoint, why would I pick that? I wouldn't. And then Cervelo is good, but also I think not as responsive as this. And also the BB back then, maybe still, it's just so much hassle with the BB, with their Be Bright press fit. And then Trek didn't fit my style. So I just feel like I've tried a few brands already. I'm at the point where, again, I know that the bike doesn't matter as much. Just pick the bike that I know fits me. So yeah, boring choice. Everyone was like, I knew you were gonna get this one lah, new bike.
我諗首先大家觀眾咧，可能對最大嘅問題咧，就係會話點解我會揀翻呢個 S-Works 同埋 SL7嘅咧？明明都已經踩過咁多架 S-Works 係咪先？咁其實咧個原因好簡單嘅啫，我已經試過唔同嘅車啦，同埋近年我都試咗一個唔同嘅 brand 嘅 Track E112 喎。咁我覺得踩嚟踩去嘅話咧，好似最適合我嘅 style 嘅炒法咧，尤其我呢種咁重嘅身形啦，係一個 sprinter 類型嘅，咁我覺得好似 S-Works 就比較適合我啦。
But to me, it's like, why would I want to spend more money and waste money to get something where I'm not sure if I'll like, and then have to go through all that whole like waiting process? Because you know, bikes takes forever now.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to be like, buy something I know that will work for me and forget about it and just ride.
So are you saying that people should try different bikes, don't just be brand loyal to one?
Yeah, for sure.
And find which one suits you.
Like if you start out with S-Works or Specialized, I think you're probably quite spoiled for experience because I think they make quite well-rounded bikes. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't try because every person's experience on a bike will be different because maybe you are a different weight, you output different power, you ride maybe in the saddle more or maybe out of the saddle more. You maybe ride more forwards, you're maybe less aggressive. There's just so many factors that you can factor in, and the experience you get will definitely not be the same as me. So some people say like, oh, they don't like the tarmac in Hong Kong. They're like, oh, it just doesn't fit. Cannot exactly say why, but maybe they want something stiffer. So like Ocean, he didn't say he didn't like it lah, but he kept saying like, oh, the Dogma it suits me better because it's stiffer. And he's definitely like a heavier, more flat roads kind of guy. So I feel like it just confirms what I've been thinking, my theory about bikes, which is you have to try different things to figure out what it is that you really like. I'm at the stage where I think I know what I want, and I'll just stick to it. Yeah.
And I don't know if the camera can pick up under my shades. I'm just staring at his muscular legs. It's crazy.
Yeah, just for show lah.
Oh my god, dude! How do you train? So now let's pivot to training.
Okay.
You have a very strict training regime.
Yes and no. Like, so I cycle basically every single day, but not every day is hard day. I take maybe 2 days to recovery day. So that's like I take 1 hour, spin the legs. There's no agenda. I can go for a coffee, and I'm quite lucky because basically I live right at the bottom of a hill. So I get out of the door and right away is already a climb. And it's not like a super steep climb, so it won't like burn out your legs. So for me, it's quite, I just do loops lah. So if you follow my Strava, you'll see it's always the same loop. And I'm very bored of it, but it's very time efficient. So I think coming here to Singapore, I have like newfound respect for Singaporean cyclists because it's so hard to train here. Just the geography is so hard. There's no climbs basically. You have so many traffic lights. You only have a small patch of road here and there that you can properly train. So if any Singapore cyclist is like, oh, I have 4 watts or like 5 watts, I'd be like, good job, man. Like, I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I basically train like 7 days a week. So 2 days is a rest day. And then 5 days, 2 days, so the weekends, I do longer rides. I try to do like 100K each day, but it's quite hard because there's so much climbing. And sometimes you have responsibilities. So 100K over the weekend. And then during the week, I usually do kind of interval related stuff. So, and those last maybe like 1.5 hours each. Yeah, so that's like my general weekly training. It comes out to be about 300 to 350 to maybe 400 km a week.
Man.
Yeah, I have more time now because I'm taking like a small break from things. But even when I was working full time, yeah, I put in maybe 15 hours a week.
Oh,
and then now it's like 20 hours. So.
Oh. And do you have an indoor trainer?
Yeah, I do.
Is that important?
I honestly just use it for the rainy days. But sometimes when I'm like really time crunched, so like work comes in, I only have like half an hour, I would jump onto the trainer and just do something. Something is better than nothing. So I use it in that sense. And then if there's like a Zwift race or something I want to do, then I'll jump on it. But otherwise, if I can, I would rather do the workout on the road rather than on the trainer. Yeah.
Can you tell us about the team that you ride with? Are you sponsored by them? How does it work?
Yeah, so this one here, Raft, this is our team. So we're basically like sort of affiliated with the Hong Kong RCC. The whole concept started out as we have all these RCC members, some of them are very strong, and they want to have a team to support them to go racing. And there wasn't really a coherent organization or structure to like the whole RCC Hong Kong racers. So that's when the chapter coordinator there was like, oh, let's maybe do something. So he gathered a few guys, including me, and we started this team. So Raft kind of sounds like Rafa in Canto and all that. So it's like a deliberate kind of choice of words to kind of mix things up. So we're primarily a club that tries to cater for the RCC members in Hong Kong who want to go racing. And so that's why you'll see like occasionally we'll have like rides open to RCC members and their fast rides, and just kind of like get people who are interested but not there yet to dabble their feet and say, oh, is racing for me? Is riding fast for me? And if they are interested, and we feel like they're a good addition to the team, because it's quite hard to select like your team members. We don't want to be like, oh, everyone join. Then it just kind of defeats the purpose, and it kind of dilutes the whole quality of the experience, right? So we try to be a little more selective, but it's really hard to select too, because it's like, what do you base it on? So we try to say like, okay, this member's strength or our team in general lacks maybe this kind of strength. So hopefully we find someone who has that strength, and if we find him, then we recruit them in them, as long as they're not like some punk, But yeah, that's kind of like the whole story of our team. We're not really like a pro team or anything. We have sponsorship from local like businesses, bike shops and brands, but the whole fund goes into the team as opposed to like individual riders. Like our riders can definitely go out and find their own sponsorships. That's okay, and they can keep it. But the money that the team found is more for like the team. So lately we've been doing more just like elevating that experience for our members too. So the money we get, we hire a coach, and we have that coach to teach us like team tactics. So how do you ride in the peloton? How do you ride better? How do you ride smarter? How do you help your teammates to make that attack stick? Because to break away is super hard. If you don't have your teammates to help you, it's almost impossible. So all of these things, like we have someone from Hong Kong team. He's like he's a full-time coach right now. So he's helping us to do all of that. So yeah, it's kind of how the team works.
I've never raced in a team before, so I've got a few questions, which might benefit some of my viewers who are pretty new to cycling as well. So when you say that your team is selective in choosing the teammates, right? It sounds like a silly question, but how important is team dynamics, team morale for a race team?
Yeah, it's super important. I think there's a lot of teams in Hong Kong, and different teams eventually have their own like personality. And so, and I guess that it applies to a lot of amateur sports teams, organizations, businesses. There's like a certain dynamic, and so maybe some people will like our dynamics, maybe some people don't like us, and it's just about like finding what clicks for you, what works for you. So I don't really know how to describe our dynamic, but we're a team that is definitely looking to race, because some sports teams they have like, oh, we look very cool and we have like the same kit. It looks good on the IG, and that's what they want to do, but they don't want to race. That's cool. But we're a team where we want to race. We want to look good, but also want to race. So we have a lot of inquiries too, like, oh, I want to join your team. Oh, do you want to race? No. Oh, sorry. Cannot lah. Like that's like the basic requirement. You can't even do that. So unfortunately, we have open rides. You can come join, but racing is part of the DNA of the team. And then the rest is like hard to pinpoint exactly, like put in numbers or anything. Like we don't say like, oh, you have to have 4 watts before you can join us. We don't say that. We welcome anyone who wants to race, wants to learn, and kind of keeps like is humble. We want to keep it down to earth, but at the same time like elite.
Yeah. Then my next question is, you mentioned about team strategies, doing breakaways. Can you share a bit like how does team strategy work and why is it so important in especially in a race, right?
Yeah.
Being in a peloton.
Yeah, so cycling is actually a team sport. If it doesn't look like it, but it's actually a team sport. And a win from a team, for me, feels like, oh, I won as well. Even if the person standing on the podium is not me, there's definitely a role that I have done in order to put that person on the podium. So if the higher level you go racing, the more important team tactics is. The lower you are, then the less, and people are just in the same team, but it's all for themselves. That's kind of like the general pattern for the whole world. That's how it is. And we're not really there yet, quite there yet, in terms of like being top level and having strategies to get us there. But we're slowly starting to, through the coaching and getting help from outside, everyone is starting to get that sense. And so we do a lot of race simulations these days to be like, okay, so someone has to be able to break away from the pack, and we maybe do like team A, team B versus team C. Can team A successfully break away? So you have to have some kind of tactics to make sure it happens. Like a simple tactic is basically, let's say two of your guys are break away and one guy from another team bridges over. So what do you do next? Well, of course you attack the heck out of him. Don't just let him sit in your draft, right? Because you outnumber. So if one guy attacks, he can't follow, well then that guy wins, right? He can break away. If he follows, then the other guy just follows and basically you burn his energy out until one of you from your team wins. So these kind of tactics, it sounds simple, but in the moment, when the heat is on, adrenaline is going, and you're tired, you don't have time to think. It has to be like instinct. So that's what we're trying to do, like get that strategy, the instinct into the young people, the young guys in our team.
But don't
especially.
you burn matchsticks like that? Like
yeah, you do. So you have to pick the moment in the race as well. Usually, like let's say 140 km, right? Tour of Bintan. If you attack on the goal, right at the goal, what? No way lah. You know, the race hasn't even started yet. So you have to pick your moment. So usually, the hillier the race, the easier it is to pick your moments. Let's say Niseko, there's like one huge climb in the middle. Everyone's gonna know that's where, you know, the key moment lah. If you cannot follow the group, then okay, your race is over. You just aim for finish lah. So that's like one clear selection. And then maybe towards the end, if there's more climbing, then you know like definitely these are the key moments, right? So the more hilly it is, I think the easier it is to tell how the pace will be for the whole race. Whereas for like Bintan, it's a little trickier. I mean, I didn't finish, so I don't really know, but looking at the profile, it's probably towards the very end, definitely, when most of the team, everyone is tired. And then you also have to look at the dynamics of the peloton too. You just kind of like look around, see if anyone is everyone like, oh my God, just hanging on? Or is everyone like still fresh? If everyone's still fresh, there's no point to attack. It's when people are starting to get tired, then you like put the nail in the coffin. Yeah.
And you have a Wahoo element boat. Just now when we were filming the B-rolls, I was asking you, can you show me what you have on your screen? Tell us what do you look at?
So in training, I look at a lot of things, including like calorie, time. Time is actually very important because I have to get home on time, you know. But you know, I look at definitely watts. So watts is on like all my pages. I usually have maybe two pages that I really look at. 3 maybe for the race. So one page would be the map. I have to know like, do I turn left or right? What's like the descent? Is it, you know, what's coming up, right? So I don't crash. And I learned that because in Niseko Classic, there's one corner, you descend very, very fast. It's like at least 70 Ks. And then it's a very sharp turn that just like suddenly hits you. Everyone crashed there. Yeah, so I was lucky enough that I saw that on video before I went there for that race. So I knew that corner was gonna be like very dangerous. But since then, that was when I saw people like flying off the cliff, that I was like, okay, probably a good idea to have the map on hand. And you know how some people make silly mistakes, like they turn right instead of left because they rely too much on like the race marshals, but sometimes they make mistakes too, that they're human. So it's really your own responsibility. So that's why in the race I'll have a map. But normally training, I don't use the map, but definitely I still have the power number at the top and also the speed. And then the next usual page, if I'm racing, then I will have power, speed, heart rate, because these are very important metrics. And then also I have km to go. So I need to know like when, how many kms is it going to be lah. And I also have this function in Wahoo. You can set your custom messages. So I set for every 20 minutes, I'll have like a reminder to eat. It could mean like eat something, drink something, but just eat. Because usually in the race, you could get so focused in just not crashing, especially in the big peloton if you're nervous, that you forget to eat. So every 20 minutes, it beeps to remind me. And then I also put in reminders for all the feed zones that I'm targeting. So I usually do, let's say at 65 km, there's going to be a feed zone. At 60 km, I set a reminder that says, okay, feed zone is coming up. And I give myself that 5 km buffer because you need to start to like plan your feed. If you see the feed zone and then you decide, oh, I'm on the wrong side of the road, I need to go all the way from the right to the left, it's too late, you'll miss it. Because you're going at like maybe 40. So you're going to miss it. And there's like so many people. It's going to be messy and you don't want to crash. So I give myself that 5 km buffer to start like moving to the right side where the bottles and all that is going to be. So that's actually very helpful to have on the Wahoo. I don't know if you can do it on Garmin's, but
I have no idea. I mean, I never used that function.
Yeah. So like, buy Wahoo.
So how do you take nutrition for your races? How do you prep for it? And what do you just drink water?
I usually have 1 bottle water and then 1 bottle of like Pocari type of stuff. So right now I'm using this brand called Bix Hydration, and they come in like these tablets of a lot of different electrolytes, and I usually like overdose on that stuff. So if they say like, oh, recommended, let's say 1 for every 550 mils, then I put in like at least double.
Is there a reason why?
Just because I feel like the taste is better, and also because I sweat quite a lot. I lose a lot of electrolytes, and cramping is like I always cramp in the races. So I found that when I just like dump more than double the dosage, it helps me to prevent cramping up.
So most people who cramp, is it because they just don't hydrate enough?
So cramping is like is a very difficult science. I don't think people have really figured out exactly why, but it's usually a combination of overexertion and also not fueling enough. And the environment has an impact too. So maybe like the heat, the humidity. So it's usually these 3 things combined, but we don't really know exactly like, oh, is it just because your sodium levels are too low? That's why. It's not really. It's a combination. So you have to figure out like, look at the race, look at the event that you're doing. Or is it a hot race, humid race, or is it a cold race where you're not going to sweat that much? In that case, maybe you don't need to overdose on the electrolytes. It can be normal, but you have to do your research for all these kind of things. Yeah.
Okay, maybe it's time we move on to
the bike.
So if anyone has any questions, I guess you could comment it in the video. Daryl will go ahead and
I will be very
reply.
happy to respond. So
Yeah.
comment below.
So you have a 52 centimeter SL7 2022. How tall are you?
I'm 170 cm. I have no idea what my insim is. I just never bothered to measure, but I feel like for my height, my what's it called? The length here is maybe slightly above average. Yeah, so I can rock a 52 centimeter, and it doesn't look too off the whole thing. I mean, yeah, I race lah, but looks is very important too. You look good, feel good, go fast. So I dabbled around. I tried a 49 before, not this one, the older SL6 rim brake that I had. That was a 49, but then I felt like I don't know, just itchy lah. So I tried the 52, and then I thought, oh, actually it's more stable. It handles quite the same in that sense. So yeah, it looks quite good too. So I moved over to 52 and haven't looked back since.
Did you go for a bike fit? Is bike fitting something common in Hong Kong? Do people go for bike fits?
It's common, and in Hong Kong, it's quite a unique market now. In the sense that I think it's probably quite different from everywhere else in the world. That it used to be like a very premium kind of service, but now a lot of shops, maybe because people there's a COVID cyclist boom, so the price range has gone like even more extreme. You have even more expensive stuff, and then you have like the dirt cheap, like 20 sing you can do you can do a basic bike fit. The quality, I think it kind of depends. At the end of the day, it depends on the experience of the fitter and also your own like feedback. So if you're like, oh, I don't know anything, like just, you know, fit me and expect magic to happen, but you have no feedback on it, then it doesn't work. But I've done fits before. I've done not like the lowest end bike fit, but maybe in nowadays standards, probably in the middle. And I feel like it helps, but over time, I've just kind of like dabbled myself. So let's say the only thing that hasn't changed basically is this length here. That I dialed in, never moved. Always been the same. Maybe I grow shorter and adjust a little bit, but I haven't moved. But what I have changed is, let's say, for example, the stang length. The stang length, when I fitted, it used to be on a 49, right? So it's already shorter, the reach. And I was using 100 mils stem. And then I went into 110, and then went to 120. And then I switched the frame to 52, and I still went with 120. And I went from negative, 6 degrees to like negative 12. So in that sense, I think I got more and more aggressive, but it didn't affect my performance.
And you did it on your own, or your
I did
bike
it on my
fitter
own. I did it on my own, yeah.
Okay.
It was just like, I mean, I didn't want to pay every single time for like a 10 mil difference. I just put it on, see how it feels.
Trial and error.
Trial and error, yeah. If it feels good, okay lah.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, well, I'll sell the stamp. Someone will buy it lah.
That's
you
what
know?
I do as well.
Yeah.
But this is it's only feasible if cockpits remain as two-piece.
Yes.
Now most cockpits are one piece. It's going to be a pain to be able to do that,
yeah.
right?
So a lot of people ask me like, oh, what bike should I get as my first bike? I tell them like, just get any old bike lah, because you'll definitely buy the wrong size. You'll definitely not know what you're doing. Just buy whatever, play around, buy cheap, buy multiple times, okay, no problem. Once you figure it out, then you can spend the money. I think that makes more sense. But I mean, money is yours, you do whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
I say that to everyone, but it's always like, do as I say, not as I do. I always buy the expensive stuff and be like, the wrong thing, damn it, you know. But you know, seriously, like that's the I guess amalgamation of all the mistakes that I've made.
Yeah.
You buy cheap at first, figure it out, and then you can, you know, spend the big monies on.
I mean, that's how I started as well. I played around with different parts, different bikes. Sizing was a problem for me. Sometimes I buy a bike that's too big, too small.
Yeah.
But like you said, then you kind of get your way around it. And then you kind of know. Oh,
You eventually know like what works for you. Like, I feel like bike shops get a bad rap because you feel like, oh, they're just trying to push like a certain thing onto you, right? And I can't speak for all bike shops, but I feel like some bike shops are generally trying to recommend what they feel is best for you. And maybe you are borderline like a 52 or 49. Who knows, right? And they say, okay, win-win situation. I have a 52, it could fit you in the long run, but maybe you're a beginner, you don't really know what you want, and you buy it and you think, oh no, the reach I cannot do like too aggressive because I'm too new to the sport. And then maybe your friends say like, oh, how come you use such a short stem and you have so much stack? And then you start to think like, oh, the bike shop like they played me. Well, no, maybe it's not the bike shop played you. It's just you're too new. You need time to understand what it is you need. So I feel like I need to say something for the bike shop too. It's not necessary all the time that they're trying to push you like the larger frame. It's just maybe you need to try.
And getting into an aero position, a slam stem, is it something that people can just try to conform to the bike? They just keep riding, or people can't do it? How do you get into that position?
So the aero position is like, it depends on how extreme you want to take it lah. So I've seen some teams in Hong Kong, they go super extreme, like I think like 32 cm bars, which is ridiculous when you look at it. It's super narrow, but I know why they do it, because they look at their shoulder width and it's quite narrow. And even if you use like a 38 cm bar, it's like they're driving a bus, it's very wide shoulders. So I get the logic behind it, but it just looks kind of weird. And looks for me is important too, right? So I cannot do that. But I'm lucky because I have wideish shoulders, so 40 cm works kind of okay for me lah. And aero position is not something you can just do. Yeah, you can hold for the Instagram shot, 20 seconds, 60 seconds, okay lah. But you in an actual race, you're not just gonna do 60 seconds. You have to hold it for like 20 minutes. Like the Bintan one, I'm pretty sure I was able to get on the podium because I practiced for a long time just holding a very aero position. Yeah, it's the same thing for like a TT bike and all that stuff too. You see people with like their very expensive TT gears, and I have nothing against that. Buy whatever is happy for you, but there's no point in saying like, oh, my bike is, I need to make this more aero, that more aero, when you're riding in the aero position with your elbows like this wide, you're catching all the air. Well, just, for free, you can make your arm pads narrower, make it lower, tuck your head in, and it's free speed, But the caveat is you have to practice. It's very, very tiring to hold an aero position and still put the watts that you normally do.
Yeah. Actually, the hoods, yours is kinked in a little bit.
Yep.
I used to kink mine quite a lot, try to copy the pros.
Yeah.
But what I realized is when people start taking photos of me, I realized that my elbows go out.
Yeah.
Because it's in like that. So when I do that, my arms are out. So what I did was I pushed it back out and my arms started going back straight again. So I pushed it back to its natural position.
Yep.
And somehow it feels much more comfortable and I feel a bit more aero now. It's tucked in rather than pushing it out, it goes out. But yours is still a bit out.
Mine's still a little bit, but so you're absolutely right. Like the elbow flared out, not aero. So your bike looks aero, but you're like not. And everyone should know that it's the bike rider that takes up the most, aero drag and all of that. So you always want to look at how can you make yourself more aero as opposed to the bike more aero. So you're on the right track. But I think the reason why people angle their hoods in was because they couldn't really find the right bar width. So some people have very narrow shoulders, even on the World Tour level. I think Remco had his like very, very aggressive, but nowadays it's more normal. So I think he was experimenting and saying, because he has quite relatively narrow shoulders as well. So trying to see like if he can get his, what's it called, like a more vertical plane. With the handlebars, but I find it with this, it's more like an optical illusion a little bit, because when we tried to put it like straight dead on, it looked almost like it was flared outwards, and it looked just kind of funny. It felt funny as well. So I remember when Shimano, their marketing stuff, they put it out for the new 12 speed, they said they consulted the pros and said like, oh, it's better to angle the hoods a little bit inwards. So we kind of kept with what they said, and it works okay lah. I don't think my elbows felt too much, and I'm conscious of that all the time. So when I do TT races, I try to like tuck it in a little bit. So yeah, I think it's just more an optical illusion than anything.
And you have a pro vibe bars which are round. It's not the Aerofly. Why?
Yeah, not aero enough.
Yeah, not aero, man. You talk about pushing it in, but the bars are not aero.
So yes, the handlebar is probably one of the bigger components that has aerodynamic penalty. But over so long, riding so many different bikes, I feel like round bars still the most comfortable. And again, I still think it's the rider that makes the difference. So a little bit un-aero, but much more comfort. Yeah, I'll take that. Plus, round bars is like the easiest to mount things. So I took this bike to Vietnam right before the Tour de Bintan. I could mount all kinds of stuff onto the handlebar because it's round. If I had like aero bars, can't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's finish up everything else on your bike. If you could run us through what you have on.
Yep. So I have Dura-Ace 12 speed, which I think is good, but is it necessary? No.
Like from 11 to 12, do I need
11 to 12? Do you need? Absolutely not. Like right now, I'm using on the back is a 1130, and 1130 for this. I think most of your audience will probably heard from other guests as well that it's the same line, just an extra like 16 teeth in the middle. So for criteriums and races, I think can, but for normal riding, 16 teeth does nothing for you. okay, maybe better if you slap on the 34, but I think even in a terrain like Singapore, I don't think 34 is really necessary unless you're doing something crazy like a million times Faber or something for the Everesting, then okay, yeah, you can put on a 34. I think that makes sense. But otherwise, for most places, even in Hong Kong, I think a 30 is good enough. So I don't think you need to worry that, oh, I don't have the latest Shimano, that I need to go on it. But again, money is yours, so you can splurge if you want. But if you were to upgrade something, then I would say it's the calipers, because the calipers are a little wider. The gap is a little wider than before, so it doesn't rub as much. That's 100% true.
But if it doesn't rub that much, is there a lot of play?
No. So they also adjusted the travel or the mechanism in the levers. So they have, I forgot what it's called, but it's a mountain bike or servo wave technology. So it's basically, it's not a linear throw for when you pull the thing. So the first maybe couple millimeters of throw moves the pistons more. And then the more you pull it, the less it kind of moves. So it's more progressive, not linear. So when you're pulling it, the feel is the same as before, if not better. But you definitely don't hear as much ting 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 ting. Disrupt, yeah, not as much. And then I have the power mirror saddle, which again I think is another controversy. Do you need it? No, you don't need it. But it is very comfortable. Like, I know a lot of people will be like, oh, yeah, it's like different, like it's sitting on cloud. That is true. There's a marked difference between the normal S-Works power and the mirror. But I was okay on the normal power. The reason why I changed was because the rails broke on the carbon rail. And apparently it's like a common issue.
How did it break for you? Were you riding and it just
I was just riding and suddenly like, it just like went down.
Shit.
And I was like, oh, did it like slip? I thought it was just this thing, the clamp that slipped. And so I got off the bike right away. Good thing I wasn't like going fast or anything. I got off the bike and I was like, oh, how come like something looks weird? It's all bent. And that's when I realized, oh, the rail broke. Also, that's how it feels. You just suddenly like fell down, like as if. But that's the only reason why I changed. And then I had this from another bike because I was just itchy lah. So I said, oh, okay, I don't have the time to like figure out what to do with the saddle. So I just slapped it on. That's why the color kind of like mismatched, because I had, if this was white, I feel like, oh, with the white bar tape.
I've never seen a white saddle, especially a Specialized one.
Yeah, it's discontinued. That's why I'm so sad, because like I broke something that I can never buy back again. I still have the saddle. I hung it on the wall, be like, oh, please.
It's like a memento because it's not in production anymore.
Yeah, not in production. So I actually asked around. Some people recommend some crazy way. They said like, because normally all these saddles, it's a two-piece construction and bonded at the rails. So if you can maybe find an S-Works power that someone doesn't want for cheap, then maybe you can cut out the rail and then rebond it to the white saddle. But it's such a pain in the ass. So, and I haven't come around doing it because it broke right before this trip. So maybe one day, if someone wants to sell me their
Is it still on your YouTube video? When you did the SL7?
Yes. So the video that I made to talk about the new bike that I got back then, it was still white.
Okay, I'll you don't mind if I steal it? I'll give you credit, don't worry.
Put it on there. It looks, you should put that picture on here because it looks more complete. If I had time, I would have changed the bar tape to black just to match make it not look so weird lah.
I don't like white bar tapes because it gets black very fast.
It does. Okay, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out which bar tape doesn't turn black so easy. And it's this Physique, I think Tempo something lah. Yeah. It's not like the super grippy version.
It's not very grippy.
Yeah. So you sacrifice a little bit of grip. But this one, I feel like it stays white the longest, and also it's quite easy to rub off all the gray, grime and all of that. So this has been through Vietnam. It doesn't look like...
Yeah, it looks brand new.
Yeah, it looks relatively brand new.
How long have you had this tape?
Okay, like just a few weeks. But like, no, seriously, Vietnam was like so muddy and so dirty. Yeah. And all the dirt every day just wiped off. So it stands the test of Vietnam.
Yeah. And these are Rovel CL or CLX?
CLX50s.
CLX50s.
So wheels, I honestly, of the whole bike, I think wheels and tires is the part where I look into the least. Not because I don't think it's important, but I feel like it's so much technology and engineering involved, and I can't be bothered to go into this deep hole. But the reason why I haven't swapped rims is because I feel like we're at this like kind of gray area where we're switching technologies to tubeless, but we're not quite there yet. So it's like, you know.
What do you mean by we are not quite there yet?
Like tubeless technology, I think is the future going forward, but it's not there as in like we haven't figured out the way to really make it work. So there's still like a million standards out there. Only more recently are wheel manufacturers starting to be like, okay, let's start to have one standard, hookless or not, whatever that is. Tires, let's start to have like look into one standard, whereas like clinchers is been around for everyone. Every single tire works with every single rim. You don't have to look at compatibility sheets, but tubeless you still do right now. And I feel like that's just so much hassle. It just shows that the whole industry is still trying to figure it out, and we haven't landed on that one like golden standard yet. So I feel like until that has happened, there's no like super big urge for me to swap over. It's like, I have an iPhone 13. Do I need to go to 14? Well, you can. Is it much better? Not really. It is better, but it's not like day and night kind of difference. So until I see that like we go from like a Nokia to iPhone kind of leap, I don't think I'm like pressed right now to make a switch. Yeah.
Last one is the Asioma power meters.
Yep.
These are duos, right?
So I have the Shimano one here, which is probably not as popular. Most people go with the Look version because of the stand swift issue. So I dislike Look pedals because I've tried them before. They were the first type of pedals I've used. I don't know, just something with it. The squeaking noise, the longevity of it doesn't work as well. The platform isn't as wide as Shimano ones. Just all these combined together. Shimano, I've had these for like, okay, not this one, but like the ones on my other bike. I had it for like so many years, so many different bikes. It's still championing it on. So I feel like Shimano is like, I'm stuck with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been using Shimano since the first time I started riding until now.
Yeah,
man.
it just works
for me.
It just works, exactly.
Yeah.
I recently got my hands on a pair of Wahoo pedals, so I'll try that out.
The speed play ones?
The speed play ones, yeah. But I don't know, I'm just so lazy to put it on because the cleat looks so complicated. Like all the weight is transferred from the pedal to the cleat. And to me, that's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Just for the dual-sided. But I'm not one to say because I suck at clipping in. That's why I always do track stand lah. Because I don't want to unclip. I get dropped.
It's too tight. So are you using the red or?
I'm using the blue right now.
Blue?
Yeah, I don't use the red.
There's so much play, man.
It's okay lah.
Especially someone like you who does a lot of races.
So I used the red for a while, and then it gave me knee pain.
Because you can't move your.
I can't really move. Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, this is coming from someone who's done like all the bike fit, who's been riding for so long. Just red didn't work for me. So I used the blue, okay. The yellow definitely no, because it's too much play. But the blue, I've just grown to get used to it.
Yeah.
So
and when I started, I used the yellow. Obviously, you start with yellow first.
Yeah.
I went yellow, blue, then red. For me, the red works because I don't like having the feeling of it moving
around.
It's just something like it's off or something is broken. That's just for me.
I like the feeling of it. But I mean, I don't like the feeling of the knee pain, so so I just compromise, and then eventually I don't really think about it. It's like those, I guess, yeah, okay, like marginal gains, but it's one of those marginal gains where I'm like, it's okay, I can give it up, but at least I can ride, you know. So yeah, I use that. But back to the pedal wise, I use this because Shimano, and I'm like kind of stuck to the whole system. But actually, the stand swift thing, I did my research on it too. So stand swift kind of. Yes, this is definitely, I think, like a good centimeter or almost 2 centimeters wider, but it doesn't necessarily mean it affects everyone. So some people actually can potentially benefit from a wider stance. Stance as in like, you know, how far apart your feet is going to be when you're riding. So some people actually need the wider stance, but they don't know it. And they can benefit from it. And Shimano, that's why they come out with the wider stance versions as well that you can pick. Except this is only like even more extreme. So for me, I felt like actually I could potentially I didn't go for a bike fit for that, but I felt like in the back of my mind, I knew I needed a wider stance because when I ride, I would see pictures of myself at the top of the stroke. The knee would be like kind of outside. So I'm pedaling like a circle from the front. So I felt like, okay, maybe having the wider stance will help. So I put it on, I tried it out. It was fine, no knee pain, and I looked better in the photos. So I was like, okay, stick with this stuff.
Last but not least, the OSPW.
OSPW, do you need it? No. Honestly, so I have the Koga right now. Honestly, if it weren't because of my good friend from the bike shop, he wanted to promote it and gave me one. If it weren't for that, I would be very happy to just keep the stock version. My take on OSPW is maybe it can make you faster, but the risk of it making you slower is much greater.
Why? How?
So why? Because not all OSPW is made the same. There are some brands, I mean, okay, only two that I know of that I've tried and I feel confident is CS and also Kogo. These two, the construction quality is good enough, rigid enough that when you shift, there's no like huge play. Because I've tried other brands and I mean, you just do this and it like wobbles around so much. There's no way that it doesn't affect the shifting. So there was one where I tried, I've never dropped chains. I put it on immediately, I dropped like 2 times. Yeah, so I felt like, okay, it definitely affects the shifting. And you can tell like the shifting isn't as crisp once you put it on. So to me, that's not acceptable. Because I have to shift, I can't drop a train in a race. That's game over right away. So the risk for these mechanical issues and having a bad shifting experience is so high. There's, especially those like AliExpress OSPWs. You just do this and you can see it flex and bend. Just don't buy those. I think the money, like why they ask for so much, there's a reason. Maybe it doesn't make sense. A lot of it goes into marketing, but the quality definitely does stand out. Yeah, I would only change to those two if I had to spend my money on OSPWs.
Right. I've got a few questions here.
Sure.
Before I get onto my questions and the IG questions, last wrap up about your bike performance. What do you not like about your bike, and will you make any other future upgrades?
I just don't like the price. So I don't know how like Singapore or the world works for bicycles, but I know the practices in Hong Kong sometimes are a little shady. I won't name like bikes, but let's say I know, for example, that you buy a certain brand bike and only a certain BB fits on it, and you have to buy from the same like brand. So they will deliberately, some stores take that part away, even though it comes with the bike, and they make you pay extra on top of whatever you already pay to pay for the BB because you have to, right? So there's these kind of like practices in Hong Kong that I've heard of.
Wow.
So I don't know what happened for Specialized in Hong Kong, but let's say, for example, used to be when I bought the Venge and even the SL6, it came with the CSBB, and for Venge it came with the handlebar and the stem, right? When I got this bike, didn't come with BB, didn't come with the handlebar.
And this is from a Specialized?
This is from a Specialized store, yeah. So I don't know if they like took it all away and make you buy more, pay more, but the fact is I didn't get it and I had to find my own. So I didn't buy from them.
Did you ask them? Why did you?
Well, I asked them like, oh, it doesn't come with BB. They're like, no, not anymore. Oh, it doesn't come with handlebar, not anymore. Okay, like what else can you say? I can't.
Did it come with the seat post at least?
It came with the seat post, yeah. Thank goodness, man. They didn't charge for that. But maybe next time it'd be like no seat post,
just
the frame, and then eventually just not even the fork.
Not even the fork. I'll send it to you to Hong Kong. I'll knock it up.
I know, right? Your side business for us.
Yeah.
No, but like so I don't know if that's why. But let's assume that it really doesn't come with handlebar and BB. Even if the price was the same as a Venge, well, that's a markup already because you have to pay extra for these two parts that originally came with it, right? So that's what I don't like about this bike. It's just the price increase.
In terms of performance, anything that you feel that
nothing.
perfect?
Yeah. For me, this is like, I can see myself riding this for a good few years and I won't feel like it's outdated or...
Until the new one comes in, the SL8.
Well, yeah, of course lah. But no, even the Venge, you know, I feel like I still have it, and my wife always says like, you should sell it lah, because it takes up space, and she doesn't like the color of it. I have the Sagan like frosty green one. She's like, I hate it. It looks like Frozen. It's like a Disney kind of bike, you know. So she always tells me you should sell it. But to me, it's like, oh, it looks still very relevant in today's market. So I still keep it.
So Venge or SL7 now?
It's a hard one. I would say SL7 still.
No, I have the Venge. And
I know, I like the Venge a lot. I actually considered bringing the Venge over for the whole trip, because I think it makes probably more sense.
It's flat.
Because it's kind of flat, rolling terrain. Vietnam is also very flat most of the time. So I felt like it would have made more sense, but I have this weird like tradition of my own where every single bike has to go on a trip with me at least once, and this hasn't yet. So I was like, okay lah, I need to continue this tradition.
Yeah.
And so I decided to bring this bike.
But
over.
you still choose the SL7 over the Venge?
I think so, just because I hate to use their marketing like terms.
One bike to rule them all.
One bike to rule them all, you know. I'm such a fanboy here. But I mean, it's true. If I only had one bike, it would be this one.
Yeah, that's what everyone says.
Yeah, it handles everything. Flat's okay, not too bad. Climbs, definitely, this one wins. So yeah, I would probably pick this one still. But I have like a soft spot for the Venge just because it looks so badass.
Right. Wax or lube?
Lube. I can't be bothered with wax.
Why?
It's just, I'm like the laziest guy. If it weren't for my mechanic, my bikes would look like crap.
You don't do your own
I try, and every time I mess something up, and I have to bring it to my mechanic, and he goes like, please just let me figure it out for you. Don't touch your bikes anymore. Yeah, like I'm so bad with maintaining my bikes. It's all my mechanic. Yeah, I'm lucky.
So when you go for races like the one in Bintan, you don't have a mechanic with you. How do you pack your bike, and do you assemble it by yourself, or do you send it to the bike shop?
No, I assemble it by myself. So I got the Sycon bike bag. It's like the easiest bike bag that you can use. So I used to have like the hard case, thinking that, oh, it protects the best. It probably does, but it's like such a hassle. You have to basically take off everything. Seat post, you might have to like lower. Handlebar, you almost definitely have to like at least loosen and twist and all of that. And I feel like with the newer bikes nowadays, all the internal routed cabling is very difficult. You probably run into an issue snapping a cable or something than having like issues with the derailleur. So I feel like the Sycon bike bag, you just take off the wheel, mount it on, put the wheels together on the side, and that's it, you know. It's super easy. Even a mechanic dummy like me can figure it out. But some people think the bike, because it's a soft case, so a lot of people think like, oh, it's gonna damage the bike. Touch wood, nothing has ever happened to me. I usually put a lot of padding in between, and I also take off the derailleur. So I take it off at the hanger actually. That's like my own little trick. Because if I take it off at the knuckle here, it might affect the shifting, the indexing. But if I take it off here, it never has affected the shifting. So I take it off here, and then I wrap it in like these cushioning and foam and whatever, and I just let it I shove it in between the frame.
This is the CGE hanger, right?
Yeah, CGE hanger.
Okay.
So I think this is like a low cost upgrade lah.
It's just one piece. It's very light.
One piece, very light, and the shifting is a little crisper with it. I think you can tell. But
and it's yeah, sorry.
Yeah, but I mean, like, is it necessary? No, it's just like a little bling thing. But yeah, like it's super easy because now you just have this. You just take it off here, and then I shove it in between the frame, wrap it all up with foam, whatever, and yeah, no issues at all.
And I forgot to mention, this is a very light bike for a disc brake, 7.1 kilos.
Yeah.
How come?
I don't know. I didn't do anything to it.
It's pretty light, man.
When I weighed it, when we built the bike up with the pedals too, we weighed it, and it was 7.0 something lah. I round up, just say 7.1.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, no like special, unique, crazy parts. I think the only thing that I like kind of weighed myself on was the handlebar. The handlebar, I forgot how much weight it is, but it's quite light for what it is. That's the only thing I like kind of
Right.
try to weight weenie on. Nothing else. Yeah.
Okay. Last question before we go to the IG, just from me. Well, what do you check on your bike before you start a race? Because you pack your bike from Hong Kong, move all the way to Bintan or wherever you are.
Yeah.
What's the main thing that you need to make sure it works?
The shifting, definitely.
Shifting
like,
only?
I would definitely build the bike up and then ride around at least for like a day or something. It doesn't have to be like a crazy day, but even if it's like a recon, a recovery day, you have to make sure that the shifting is okay. So this is the first time I've traveled with tubeless. It used to be always with clincher. And it's probably not the best idea going to like a race and then trying something new, but it worked okay for me. So I left a little bit of air in the tires to make sure that it doesn't completely deflate, and I need like a, what's it called, like a compressor or something to pump up the air. But it happened in Vietnam where it somehow lost too much air and I had to bring it to a bike shop to do it. But otherwise, if I was on clinchers, I wouldn't have to worry about it. But nowadays with tubeless, that's like an extra thing I would have to worry about. So I would actually recommend not using tubeless for like any flyaway race, just because it's a hassle.
You're right.
Yeah.
Okay. Your fan is over here.
Oh. Hi, nice to meet you.
We will just finish the Instagram questions. I think we should wrap up soon. It's already 1 hour.
Oh yeah, I talk too much.
No, it's fine, man. Okay, so now we'll move on to the Instagram Q&A. If you guys want to ask your questions, you can follow me on Instagram, ask through my Insta story. Okay, Daryl, we'll pick a few questions.
Okay. Bring it on.
Wow, okay. I think you had envies on this, right?
Yeah, so I have multiple bikes, right? So I basically just take wheels from different bikes, and based on whatever ride I'm doing, I will switch wheels. So on the Envies, I would swap on 1134 cassette in the rear. It's more for like climbing and stuff. And it's kind of like my training wheels are in Hong Kong, because it's usually quite hilly, the rides we do, and even if we do the flat roads, I feel like with a lower profile, it's better training lah. Yeah, you know, so it just has become my default training wheels. But for this race in Singapore, I feel like the deep section is better.
So which one is the go-to between the Envies and the Rovels? Or Envies only purely for training?
I would say I would pick this definitely over the Envies, not because of the brand. I honestly can't really tell the difference in terms of like stiffness and all that, but the aero difference, this is like, you definitely can tell. And I think for most of the races I do, I think usually most amateur racing, the gradient isn't actually that steep, at least not for long. You're averaging maybe like 5-6% up gradients, and you have to go around like 23 km per hour up it. At 23, you can feel aero, and definitely in the descents and on the flats. So I think for any type of racing, I would use the 50s, at least, yeah.
Okay. What is your preferred tire pressure front and back for your TT races? And I want to add on, and for normal races like this.
I have a weird tire setup though. So I have a 28 in the front and 25 in the rear. So the tire pressures are different. I know most people do it the opposite way around, like the wider tire in the rear and then the skinny in the front. It was kind of a mistake, but a good mistake for us. So my mechanic one day, he saw, so I usually like, I wear my tires down to like the carcass. You can see all the wires flying out and I still use them. So my mechanic was like, one day he saw it and he's like, oh yeah, I have some like new-ish tires that someone didn't want. So I'll give it to you. Yeah. So we put it on and then we were like, oh crap, it's 28, but you use 25 normally. I was like, yeah, it's free, so I'll just take it. I don't mind. And it actually works out for me because I feel the front grip is actually much stronger now. So in the tight criteriums, it actually helps me because I can, in the corners, just like, it's on rails, you know, it's like a mountain bike versus skinny road bikes.
Right.
I would come out of the corners, go through the corners so much faster than most of the people,
right,
that it felt like it gave me a competitive edge. But I don't know how the aero is, but Hong Kong is the criteriums are quite short and small, so it works out for me. So it's not exactly like good reference for my tire pressures, but The front with the 28, I run 60-ish PSI, and the rear is like an 80-ish PSI.
Do you think the bike prices in Singapore or Hong Kong, which one is lower? Which one is cheaper? Or are they the same?
About the same.
About the
yeah,
same.
not much difference.
So you can't profit in
no,
both countries?
No. I tried in this trip. I was like, maybe I'll bring a frame back or something, or some wheels. I looked into wheels because I'm interested in just the price difference. But no, that's about the same.
What's your next challenge after Everesting? So I don't know when this video is out. You might have completed another challenge after this video. So what is the next challenge?
Next challenge. Honestly, I haven't thought about it because the qualifying for finals for the Gran Fondo World Series was my next challenge, and I guess I achieved half of it. So the other half would be to qualify for the road race as well. So I guess that'll have to wait till next year. But I haven't really planned any like other crazies. Some people have asked me, would you do like the 10K climb on the what's it called, Everesting Rome? No, thank you.
So you did the Everesting?
I did Everesting.
How was it?
It's not as hard as you think it is. It's all in the mental. Like, it's all in the planning and all in the mental. The actual execution, you just follow what you did. And if you did your calculations and planning right, it's not as hard as you think. Like, the planning is a pain in the ass because we did so many calculations. Like, okay, so how much time would it be if you do like 3 watts per kg the whole way? Or what about like 2 point whatever? What about 3 point whatever? You do all these calculations and then you have to figure out like, oh, which one makes the most sense, which is the most doable. And you have to do like maybe some trial runs and all that. And you have to plan your food. It was like a picnic basically. It's like we had cars luckily, so we loaded the trunks with like so much Coke that I've never seen before, so much food, so much chocolate, and it definitely saved some lives that day. But yeah, like it's all in the planning, I would say. The execution is you just keep
go right.
You just keep going. Don't stop. Don't think. Yeah, I mean, towards the end, you can't think anymore. You just go.
You just want to go home.
You just want to go home. You just want to finish.
Yeah.
But I think it's just planning. Yeah.
That's all the questions I have. But we have our super fan here. You want to ask him a question? You want to come and ask him a question?
Yeah.
You want to use my mic because I think people can't hear.
Do you want to try double Everesting?
No, hell no. Oh my god, that's crazy.
Okay, so I think that's it. I hope I've covered everything. Anyway, if you guys have more questions, unfortunately not enough time to cover, just comment or you can message Daryl. Anything you want to tell people out there in Singapore or the world who is watching my videos? I think they're mostly from Singapore.
Well, first of all, you have to subscribe to this guy, right? But no, it's been really fun to ride in Singapore. Everyone has been super friendly and very helpful as well. So thanks to everyone. I'm not gonna name every single person in here, but thanks to everyone who's helped me on this trip, whether you're in Singapore or in Hong Kong in terms of like sponsorships. But yeah, thanks so much. And again, spend all the money you want, make yourself happy. In the end, it's all the legs and all in here. So have fun cycling.
Again, you can tell my legs and his legs. Look at the one who is cycling and who is not cycling.
This is just for show.
Oh
but
my goodness.
like I just want to like say cycling is a sport, and the equipment matters up to a certain level. But there are some people where it's probably not a thing in here. I don't know, but in the communities I ride in, it feels a little more snobbish. It's like, oh, you don't ride the latest thing. Oh, I'm going to look down on you. And I feel like that shouldn't be the way it is. We should spend the money we want to spend, but not have to look down and segregate by like spending power. At the end of the day, like I would go to Europe and the States, and people ride just like aluminum frames, but they smoke the shit out of you. And they asked me too, like, why you ride S-Works? You're so slow. And I was like, I feel so ashamed riding S-Works in Europe and in the States. And that experience teaches me like, oh, it's really not the equipment, it's the legs. You know, legs do the talking.
You know, I just got this comment on my channel yesterday, and I think it's a European guy, a Westerner. He said that, I'm sorry to say this, but people in Southeast Asia, they are so materialistic. You guys buy S-Works, but it's all about the legs, right? You don't focus on buying the bike or upgrading your bike. Focus on your fitness, improving yourself. Which, you know what? Wow, I read it, I was like, shit. That looks like me. Is he talking about me?
No, it's. I mean, I think it's just a clash of cultures. You know, definitely the West or Europeans and the Americans, they're less materialistic in that sense. It's all the legs. And here, not even like Singapore, like Hong Kong for sure too. I think just Asia cultures more into like the whole brand name thing. But I think it's okay lah. You recognize that there's a difference, and you know that what makes you happy. But you don't have to impose your happiness and your views onto anyone else. Just, we all cyclists are. We should respect each other and have fun together and be safe on the road. That's it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Daryl.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming
everyone.
all the way down to my, it's a shady car park here.
No, it's a good setup. So pro lah. All
no. I hope I get to come and meet you in Hong Kong someday.
Yeah.
And then we can ride.
Yeah, hit me up. You have to.
Thanks again for coming.
All right, thanks man. See you everyone. Bye.
Searching all night, can't seem to focus this double sight. This is a tale sworn in a sight.